than one of the fans blowing out.
Wait, I don't want that sound.
Oh, yeah.
Greetings for any of you who are streaming right now. We are running a little bit late. Chapel's running over, but we will be back with you probably around a quarter after. So come back and join us then, but the stream will be up until then.
Maybe the smell of it will overpower.
Oh, okay. So, should I just use your computer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great. Sorry. So
you're logged in.
Well, yeah, that was the thing I was small.
And
These tomatoes were not last. That's why I was like,
is it just broccoli?
this is the control room right here. And then this is what everybody else sees. And then you can.
Whatever.
yeah, I'll put it up anyway as well.
I need a lighter. That one? Yeah. You want to get the vegetarian chilies directly?
Thank you.
Yeah, we got a whole flock of computers here.
Yeah.
How you doing, Mama? Good.
I mean, yeah.
So, oh yeah, if you just want to do that. This will show you.
Yeah, so I did both ways, like, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's about a 30-second delay. Okay. So,
So where would you want me to post those resources?
or no, go here.
There was one person watching here. Oh, it's me.
If you want chili man, you can have chili.
I'll leave this up. I'll leave this if you want to comment and share NPTS. And then you'll be able to start.
Cool. Andrew, did you say that the other students that were going to be coming, were they going to ride with you?
I tried to reach them twice, but finally I got a final answer.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. I just wanted to know because we've got. I mean, it'll be I think a good turnout for everybody who's going to be there. I just want to make sure we have seats and everything for everybody.
Yeah. So I
Are
tried.
you going to take the van? Or?
We're going to take a minivan. So I don't think we'll need more spots for both. A lot of people are taking their own vehicles.
Okay.
So we've already got several vehicles that have enough open spaces for people who don't have cars, including like Erica's a driver. So yeah, we've got plenty of space. And Lisa's going to be driving from half the time. Are you going to be coming as well?
No. We have some friends who didn't have it. Yeah, I'm driving in from Peoria and I want to make a van around the back.
Or was
Yeah, so
But yeah, no, it's all good. The hobbies are going to be driving their own vehicle, so
I would do.
I should be. And he had actually confirmed on the bench because he just said that he usually would do, but didn't specify that his whole family was going to. Obviously, he has a truck, so he can drive himself.
Yeah. Great. That's awesome. It's a good time.
Any fun time?
Ooh, they don't talk about it. But
so far. Cool. Thanks, Sam.
Keep them with the same category of stuff.
fact, it is interesting to work.
When your camera.
Keep talking about what
University and seminary because when they have online seminary, so NT maybe I'm trying to teach you about the NT and what you like some of the professors something like that, and over the relocation and some of the ranges, so they don't need any seminar. It's funny.
That's only if you go to the value.
When are you guys, when do we want to get going?
Soon.
All right.
Welcome everyone. If I can have your attention for a moment. Thank you all for being here today. Maybe you didn't know you were coming to an essay-sponsored lunch, but here we are. This meal is provided by your student association.
And Dan and Megan made all the chili.
We are glad to be serving you, and our hope is that we are able to facilitate a more connected and healthier seminary community here, faculty, staff, and students. Part of my role on essay is as the academic and financial liaison, so we're having conversations about how to be healthy in finances and academics. There are oftentimes, I've found in my experience, a lot of conversations that happen around the edges. between professors and students, between students to students, about study skills, also about finances. I would encourage you to come back. Second week in November, we're going to be talking about finances, but today we'd like to share some of our best practices when it comes to study skills and personal administration, time management, these kind of things that maybe we get down the road and we have a few things that work for us, and then we find somebody else has that tool that could have made my life so much easier if I had known about that 2 months ago, right, or a year ago. So whatever that is, this is an opportunity for us to share that. So we're going to have some roundtable discussions here at your tables, an opportunity to share. And even if you're not a student, I think there's still valuable things to be shared around the table. So we're going to start with a conversation about time management and personal administration. How do you keep track of the things that you have to do? Then we'll transition to Chris Bruckner, who's going to share a presentation about how we can continue to have good study practices and also address the issue of plagiarism. And then we'll come back around to the questions of reading and note-taking while we read, okay? We are also live streaming this. For the first time, we're trying to do an informal live stream for distant students so they can access this on YouTube. So, I'm going to give you like 7 minutes now. Go to your tables. How do you keep track of your personal life, the tasks that you have in academics and elsewhere? Time management, personal administration. Go. Right. We are the live stream table. Peter, could you get this, make sure it's positioned well so that they can see in the conversation? Can they see you too? No? Yes. So they're, yeah, I know, right? They are a part of, all of you who are streaming are part of our table here today. Yeah. So what do you all think? Time management? Put them on one spreadsheet or a table in a Word document, and so then you have a different column for each class. And you can look at each week, and you know what you need to read, what you need to submit for that week. And then you could I use it more as just like a folder for the things that I'm doing. You can also use it as a planning tool as far as, okay, 2 weeks before this paper is due, I need to make sure I'm copy and paste or no, you have to type it. Yeah, there's a couple hours of work to get it in. But once it's in there, it's a helpful tool. I found it flipping from syllabus to syllabus, and like having, even if I had my assignments, having the readings in a centralized place was really helpful. So that's how I keep track of stuff.
So what about the next semester? Let's say you make each class according to class schedule, maybe.
That would be pretty cool.
All the people will know about everything. And also, as a 5 kids father, it's really hard to catch up to everything.
Right?
Yeah, always to me, the timeline is a matter.
Right.
And also, as an international student, sometimes I was due date or late submit, so that kind of disability. I think that's each class, and also school provided MS something Microsoft.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I was thinking about that because it's a lot of work to get it in. Once I do it, like, I can share those problems with everybody in the class. But how do you all deal with it?
No, Sue was blacker. And then she was
All right, 30 seconds. Wrap up your conversation. Yeah, that is definitely the struggle. These sorts of parts, or they come in pieces, especially where there are stages. When you see them testing first out, we need the syllabus that really intentional about making sure that just hear from each table one or two practices that you thought would be worth sharing with the whole group. And Peter's going to walk around to the camera so we can try to get this recorded too, okay?
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, Peter. Who wants to start? Let's start in the back over here. That looked like a hand. Oh, you were waving goodbye.
We can start.
Over here with Emily.
We're gonna start.
A little closer to you.
Well,
Let's give our attention to Emily and her table.
We said a variety of things, and what was nice is that it looked different for every person, that there wasn't like this clear cookie cutter thing that worked. I mean, it's clear that as seminary students or faculty staff, in this day and age, we're juggling a lot of things, and so our time can often be divided in a variety of areas. And so just finding things that work for us, different time management options, whether that's planning out your week ahead of time, making a list of tasks and meetings that you have to get done for each day, and then carrying things over to the next day should those not get done on that one given day. That was an option that Bailey had said too. Making moments for rest and Sabbath. And for some of us at the table, that was taking a full day and the same day every week consistently. For other of us, Sabbath looked like, an hour making dinner one evening and having that time to ourselves. But it sounded like the recurring themes I heard were the trying for balance, but not, I don't think any of us here at the table were going to like such extreme lengths that we were completely like sacrificing one main area of our life, but that it's like constantly a fine balance.
And not beating ourselves if we don't get it right, because I think that's something that can be stressful.
Does anyone have anything to add?
That was good.
Thank you.
So we work this way?
I really respect Emily a lot, and she makes lists, and so do I. And I think that both of us are list makers. It must be okay. There are a variety of ways of approaching things. But we have to make lists. There's something cathartic about crossing things off when you've done them. And for me personally, I love that they take that list at the end of the day when everything's crossed off and put it in the shredder.
No.
It feels victorious.
Oh, that's
Let's bounce around. Let's go back to the table back here.
at our table, a number of us were saying that we have very detailed planners and calendars. Two of us like the actual paper ones that we can look at, we can cross things off when we finish them. One person prefers Google Calendar because that way it's accessible no matter what device you're looking at or where you are. We were also talking about boundaries. That's right. We were talking about boundaries. Some of those are kind of like naturally in place. Like if you have a family, if you have kids, some of those boundaries naturally come up. We also talked about setting boundaries for yourself, like not doing anything school related after 8 o'clock at night, that kind of a thing. Do you want to share your
With the boundaries, I found it very useful to, ahead of time, like at the beginning of the semester, discuss the things with the people that you live with or the people whom you share, who you spend a lot of time with during a given week, and let them know. I'm in school, this is very important to me, and I hope that you share that it's important that I get this done. And so with that in mind, I'm going to take some of the time that we normally spend together, and I'm going to be doing the reading, the writing, the schoolwork. And ahead of time, before it becomes an issue, I've already communicated with them that I will be doing these things during this time. And so the time that we're normally together, how about, would you pray for me that these things get done? And so it's not any big issue like, oh, it's Tuesday and I need you to do such and such and so and so. That stress is gone because at the beginning of the semester, I talked with the Tuesday person and told them, on Tuesday from 5 to 7, I'm going to be doing a study. It's very calming. And then also from Dr. Charles Stanley, I get a monthly newsletter from him, and he sent me in the middle of August. The newsletter was from the pastor's heart. All of us have been given 24 hours a day, which soon turns into weeks, months, and years, and eventually adds up to a lifetime. And he's giving practical wisdom on what our days should look like. And I'm using this in keeping the home life responsibilities, my God life responsibilities, and schoolwork and homework time and reading time all balanced, shall we say. This is wonderful. And I just think it's a work of God that I started here on August 29th, and I got this about August 18th. So I would I made copies, and anybody would like them, I would love to share them.
Let's move around this table here. You have to do without that, I'm sorry.
So one of the commonalities I think between several in the group was the idea of using whether it's Outlook or some type of computer or a phone-based calendar system to keep themselves just organized throughout their weeks or their months. And then we're also big list makers for several people in our group, whether it's using like a moleskin notebook or for me, I'm definitely a planner person, and so if I lost that, my life would be a disaster. And so that's what we really just discussed, is how we keep ourselves organized throughout the week, and that's either using electronic calendars or some type of list, or Fanchon uses a master calendar that just keeps her life organized and together on her wall that she can see every day, multiple times a day, and that keeps her going.
Thank you.
So at our table we shared a couple things, and one of the main things we're talking about is keeping calendars. And so Professor Maxley was talking about how he and his family, they once a month have a family meeting, and they sit down together and they're like, this is what's happening this month. Granted, there's always things that will intercede and come up, but that way you're not just guessing every minute, which avoids some stress in that way.
A lot of stress, not
And so then having calendars that you can also share with one another is helpful that way. So kind of like sitting, being with those that you live with or your families, being able to be in tune with that. And Megan was sharing with us about a calendar that she keeps, and having a physical calendar that has the month, but then beyond that it has each day, and it has so then she can keep track of like each bit. Because of having kids, it's a lot different. You know, there's a lot different than my situation, but there's a lot of things that you got to keep track of. You know, and so it's very helpful for her that way. But then she was also saying how if something goes wrong and it's not according to schedule, not getting upset about that is very helpful for not getting stressed out.
Awesome.
One thing I was just thinking about is recognizing what hours of the day I'm most productive and maximizing on those. I'm not good at working late. So I need to use like the hours of 10 to 1 p.m. Like really well. So yeah, like I know I'm not someone who can put things off and stay up all night to get anything done with any sort of quality.
One other thing that I wanted to share that I shared with our group, and some of you may have seen this, I posted it on the Facebook page. This is something that Tyler Nyland and Grant Novak turned me on to. It's called a syllabus crunch. So you take a couple hours at the beginning of the semester and go through all your syllabi, take readings, take assignments, things that are due or whatever it is, and put each one into a column. So this is mine for this semester. And you have, so you can look at your week and see not only what needs to be due, but what kind of reading do I need to do. And you can build in holidays. I don't use it this way, but you could use it as a planning tool as well to kind of look back. Okay, I have this big thing due. When am I going to work on that? Let's sketch that in. So this keeps my Google Calendar from getting all cluttered up with, because I don't want readings on my Google Calendar. I keep, and we can talk at our table, keeping calendar reminders a couple days ahead for due dates and that sort of thing, which I do. But this is kind of my like master place. You have to make sure that you go through the syllabi really well, so you didn't miss anything. But it's a helpful tool. I'll post a link to it on my Facebook page again, or you can ask me and I can send it to you. We're going to shift gears now. Thank you all for sharing. And we're going to invite Chris forward, and she's going to give us presentation. All right. If I can, most of you know who Chris is. She teaches here at the seminary and is also available as our academic writing support. What's your title?
Well, I teach academic writing, and I'm an academic, I don't know, I guess the academic support person is about the best title I can give. But I do have an office up in N26, and my email is kbruckner@northpark.edu, which is pretty easy to remember. You can email me really at any time, and I would be happy to give you feedback on papers if you would want to send me a paper to review. If you have any academic-related questions at all, I sort of serve, I would call it maybe a little bit of an academic counselor, so whatever your particular issue might be or problem that you find yourself running into, I would be happy to talk to you via phone or via email or meet with you in my office. I don't have a lot of office hours, so I really am available largely by request. So not all the time, but that's really the main way you can reach me is by either email or phone. So I did just want to add one thing to this time management piece before I start the part I was going to do. And that is just to remind everybody, and Eric alluded to this, that each class you're in has this really fat thing they hand you at the beginning, your syllabus. And they give you a lot of other information as well. But if at the very beginning of the semester related to time management, you can take that syllabus, every single syllabus that you have, and you can just really take it apart and spend about an hour plugging all that information into whatever, all these different great ideas for calendars. Find some way to plug that information backwards from the end of the semester to the present, figuring out where the different pieces of your syllabus are going to fit into your schedule as best you can. That's really where the academic part of being in seminary can meet the planning of the rest of your life. So I would just really encourage you to, if you haven't taken care of that part already or you're not in the habit of that, that can really be, as Eric showed us with the syllabus crunch, that's one way to do it. That might be a great resource for you. Find the way that works best for you, but especially for long-term projects, you're really going to need to plan the pieces of them and plug those specific pieces of the work of a long-term project into your calendar, whatever it might be. Okay, so that's just a little encouragement on that. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to start with this kind of funny photo. So, besides the fact that I'm actually pretty interested in baking and cooking, the reason that I've started with this is that I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, well, it's really about plagiarism, but I'd like to flip that, and I'd like to really make it about how to properly and correctly put your outside sources into your paper. So the flip side of plagiarism is like how not to do it, right? It's how to do it correctly, and that's what I'd really like to focus on. So I'm going to start with this shot. This is a bit of a metaphor for what your paper should look like. Not that it should look like a cake, that it should actually be something that you have created. The cake itself is your paper. All those individual bits that you can actually see in the photo, those are your outside sources, okay? So if you're citing, say, 5 or 10 different books or articles or authors, each one of them should be visible and distinct inside the cake itself. So the reason I'm giving you this image is, this is really how I want you to start imagining your work. You are the creator, the builder of your paper, whatever it is, whether it's a short paper or a research paper. Your professor is the owner of the house, so to speak, if you're the builder or you're the person who's making the cake for an occasion. Your professor tells you what your cake, what the options are. You know, he says it's a cake or it's a pie or it's one with fruit and nuts like this. So your professor tells you, but you have a lot of freedom within that. Your sources are going to show up in there. Your work, you're putting it together, you're planning it with reference to your professor, But your sources have to be visible. We have to know when is it your source and when is it you talking. We have to be able to know when do you stop talking, making your argument, and when does your source start talking, and then when does the source stop, and when do you start again. We have to be able to distinctly know every single time so that you don't end up with something that just looks like a big blended cake where we puree all that stuff together and we can't tell the difference between your voice and your source's voice, and we don't know if it's you or N.T. Wright saying that. You see what I mean? That's what plagiarism is. It's when you inadvertently or advertently make it look like what you're saying is actually the words or the wisdom or the idea of someone else. You want to be able to tell the difference. So again, it's actually something that requires a fair amount. If you're not used to doing this, it requires a fair amount of attention to be able to do this and to do it well, and it's something that you need to pay attention to. So one of the reasons you need to is that you don't want to have a problem with plagiarism. Now, let's just look at that for a second. Okay, Stephen Spencer, the theological librarian, has given us a couple links so that you can figure out what plagiarism is and whether you're doing it or not. So what I would encourage you to do, if you have any question about this at all, to go to these links. This one, I can send you the links to these particular pages if you think you want to pursue this. There's a tutorial you can take that will actually school you in great detail on what is plagiarism and what it isn't. We only have like 3 or 4 minutes right now, so I'm not going to get all into that. Here's another graphic that he sent. This shows you how to tell by a kind of a flow chart, yes or no, did I plagiarize or didn't I plagiarize? So again, these are 2 things that are available if you're concerned or don't think you really understand what plagiarism is. Another resource that you have is the 2 things that come from my office. This one indirectly is the, okay, I'm going to give you all a hard copy of this. Can you pass this around? If you're online, I can send it to you. This is a link, it's no longer a live link. This is from the University of California, Berkeley. And this gives a sample sheet of how to correctly cite sources using the Turanian style. So you'll find as you look through this that it gives you how to do every different type of source you might use, and it also provides you with a sample of how to use parenthetical citations, which is basically where you put the outside source in parentheses rather than using a footnote. You can also do that at North Park. That's Turanian. You can either use the footnotes or you can use parenthetical citations. And those would look something like this. Let's see. That's a sample of what that would look like. Now, in the hard copy that I gave you, at the end of it, if you can all flip to the back of the copy that I gave you, you'll see that there's an actual paper, a sample paper in there that is done in the parenthetical style, the Turanian parenthetical style. So what this sheet I've just handed out gives you is it gives you a sample of every type of source you could use and what the footnote should look like, what the corresponding bibliography should look like, or if you're doing it in parenthetical style, then you would just use the parentheses, and then you call the list at the end a reference list, and you basically follow this form. So hopefully this is something you're going to attend to. Now, I'm going to just step out here for a second, and I do want to say that over the last year, unfortunately, we've had maybe 4 or 5 cases where a professor has found that a student is not bringing in the outside documentation to show where their sources are and when it's their voice, when it's their source. And this is, and I don't mean to be negative or scaring, but I do want to say that's way too many. That shows that our students don't know how to cite sources correctly, because we should have 0 cases of plagiarism. Plagiarism is just what someone does when they're either overwhelmed by the material, they're unfortunately not taking the time to pay attention to it, or they don't know. And I don't want any of those to be the case. So I guess I want to make a little bit of a pitch to you. Take the time to figure this out if you don't know. It's not that hard, but you do have to pay attention to it. You have to learn how to do it so that you're comfortable with it, because you have to do it in every class that you're in. You have to know what you're doing regarding incorporating and smoothly and properly using outside sources in your work. Okay, that's my heartfelt pitch. Please pay attention to this, okay? All right. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is this. And again, I have a hard copy for everybody. This particular document, which is the academic writing handbook, this is available online on the North Park website under seminaries, student resources. And anybody who's watching online right now can find that on the North Park website under seminary academic resources. So this writing handbook, which is 20 pages long, and again, I don't have time to go into all of the things that are in it, there is a section here on time management. This is the context, or the contents. So all the stuff we talked about earlier with time management, you'll find some additional insights and sources for that in this book. You're also going to find the whole writing process included in here. You'll find style guidelines. What I want to look at right now, though, is on page 7. So if everybody could turn to page 7, I'm going to go to that on the screen. If you have any questions about formatting your paper, many of them are going to be answered inside this document. So please familiarize yourself with it. Okay, so the part that you really want to look at, if you want to know how to use sources correctly and well in your papers and avoid plagiarism, is the part that starts on page 7, incorporating outside sources into your writing. Because there's more to this than just using Turabian style or formatting your little citation correctly. What we want you to be able to do is to smoothly and appropriately weave the outside source into your writing so that it fits your argument, but is also distinct from your voice. So if that doesn't make, let's see, another way of saying that might be, if you have a friend in the room, you're talking, well then you stop and you introduce your friend, and then your friend talks, and then you start talking again. You want to introduce your outside source, then you want to either summarize it, direct quote, or paraphrase your outside source, and then you have the note at the end to show they're done talking, now it's you starting again. So that's a quick way of saying it, but again, I encourage you to look at this section, which tells you how to summarize, how to paraphrase, and then it tells you how to use a direct quotation in your writing. And what not to do. It gives you a lot of insights in these few pages. And here's a section on plagiarism in this section as well. So again, we don't want you to intentionally or unintentionally, accidentally, or just through carelessness, to not give credit to your sources. We want you to be able to weave them in well and clearly, distinctly, but also smoothly woven into your argument. There's a lot more we could say about this, but that's about what we have time for this morning. So if you have any more questions, please look at these documents. Please email me, contact me by phone, whatever you'd like to do, meet. I'd be happy to do that. And I think Eric's going to talk a little bit more now about how to take notes.
Yeah, we just have a couple more minutes left here, so I think we're going to go back to table discussions. But does anybody have any questions about the stuff that Chris has talked about?
Travis wants to know if there is one format that the seminary uses, and is that Turabian?
Yes. If you look in the writing handbook here, but also was talked about during orientation, our faculty has actually approved formally Turabian as the seminary standard style sheet. Now, having said that, I have a small caveat of that, which would be if you're in a health and theology class, or you're in a counseling class, if your professor tells you to use a different style sheet, for instance, APA might be used if you're in a counseling class. If your professor says use a different one, you always go with what your professor says. So what your professor says trumps the general rule, but the general rule is Turabian, okay? So that's the short answer to that. Okay.
Is there a specific, if it's a 10-page paper, what is a good amount of citing?
I was really gonna give a general rule, I would say, you know, it really depends on what it is, but as a general rule, I would say, if it's a 10-page research paper, that you are probably looking at, on average, I would say, from 2 to 4 citations per page. That would just be a loose average. Now again, you're always going to go with what your professor's telling you about that. And your introduction, for instance, might not have any citations, or you might have a few more if it's a really research-dense paper. So there will be variance on that. But some of this is about learning when and how to do this in a way that's smooth, so that you don't, you know, have half a page of footnotes, or you have no footnotes at all. You know, you want to go somewhere.
Yeah, I was just going to add to the discussion about citation that we want you to use Turabian, but actually the thing that I most often hear amongst faculty about, you know, citation in terms of how it's formatted not going right is the student was inconsistent. I mean, the student did it in different ways within the same paper, and that's the biggest problem. You know somebody's not paid attention to detail on this when you receive a paper where 2 or 3 different things are happening in terms of how the citations are being presented, all within the same paper. So being consistent is really important.
Yeah, just a quick thing to add to that as well. I think it's important to recognize that one of the reasons that the faculty's agreed to use Turabian, that they want to have one system, is that really just for many, many reasons, it's important just to have that consistency that he's talking about, so that every citation we all know what's happening. We all know how it should look. We all understand what should be there. And that's true whether you're talking about within a paper or between different papers or between classes even. We want to have there be some kind of agreed-on consistency, because it just makes it easier and better to communicate and to understand what's happening. So if you think it is more creative to use a different way every time, you just need to get rid of that idea.
One thing I'd like to add, just from a student perspective, there are a lot of different tools out there to help you with this formatting. There's like bibliography generators you can use online, type in the information, which are things that I've used and do currently use, but you still need to understand what you're doing and what it should look like. Because with those tools, and I'm guessing that's some of where the inconsistency comes, with those tools, sometimes you wind up with a different format because you put something in the wrong box or something like that. So you still need to understand the concept of the basic general formatting. And even within Word, as Chris is showing here, you can access the different formats for references, citations.
If you go to Word, almost all of you have Word, right? If you go to the reference tab and you go to the style one, you can actually click Turabian, and then all your papers will be set up. You can insert citation, you can put in every single source. From the time you're even doing a reading or any of your sources for researching a paper, you can add, it'll give you a little thing where you just fill in all this information, click OK for every source, and guess what? It's all going to be inside your document, and then it'll set up your bibliography for you, it'll help you set up your notes. Just a suggestion, that's probably the most straightforward way to do it.
And it's a whole lot easier to do all that work on the front end than write your whole paper and then go back and try to redo those citations. As you're taking notes, as you're reading, noting where that comes from in the book, those kind of things help in simple errors of forgetting to cite.
Yeah, I think as academic dean, I get the privilege of dealing with all the occasions when things go wrong. So my impression is that what happens most often when issues of plagiarism arise is that the student has taken notes, but finishes up putting them into the paper and doesn't really know where the notes come from, because the note-taking hasn't been good. You know, it hasn't been clear when the note's been taken, which author it's from. You finish up with a page of notes, and actually some is from one author and some's from another, and it's not clearly labeled which is which, and it finishes up somehow in the final paper. And we finish up then with the situation where an item may be on the bibliography because you know you've consulted that source somewhere, but actually you've got a piece of text in the paper that the professor says, hold on, that doesn't sound like the student, that sounds like such and such an author. And they look at the bibliography and find out, well, yes, actually, that's come from an author that's on the bibliography, but it's not in quotation marks. It's just been incorporated by cut and paste. And the root of all of that is, I think, poor practices in note-taking in terms of identifying very clearly where all the notes are coming from. And so I think to deal with plagiarism, that's probably the most important change in student practice would be at the beginning of the process. Yep. The really carefully labeling where you're getting your notes from.
I know if we submit our paper to the Turnitin, immediately Turnitin program just to figure out where that is and what is from other book or something like that. But could you open up the Turnitin source for the students and before they officially submit, just by themselves, just submit as a Turnitin and they just to figure out what is from where or something like that. I think it will be helpful. And sometimes, you know, my pastor said like something, and usually pastor didn't say about the kind of Turbian style and where it from or what page it is. So I just heard about my pastors and I just put it in and just to feel like yeah, you know, you just do you're wrong or something like that. So before that, give us a chance to turn it in for the student version and figure out where it's from, and it's kind of self-checking. I think if the academic department give us the kind of that opportunity, I think it is really great helpful for us.
Okay, we'll think about that.
Wonderful. Well, we are at time. It's 1 o'clock. If you have any lingering questions, feel free to talk to me or Chris. Please utilize Chris. She's a great resource here. And if you have anything, even questions about study skills and reading and that sort of thing that we didn't cover today, again, come to Chris. She's a great resource. Or talk to your professors. So thank you all.